Hi everyone, my name's Marco. I'm with Keller Williams Realty in San Antonio, and today I've got a special guest with me, Jon Tober with SWBC. Thanks for being with us, Jon.
Marco, thank you.
So we wanted to make this quick video to explain what are the important questions that you should ask yourself if you're considering buying a home this year.
As an agent, what's the first thing that comes to mind that someone should be asking themselves when they're trying to buy their first house?
So the first thing that I tell people to consider is, how long do you plan on living in this house?
Good point. Yeah.
The reason is that it's expensive to sell a house. It costs money to sell it. You have to pay the realtors, and there's some closing costs involved, and you may have to spend some money on repairs. So typically it's 5 to 7% of the sales price of your house that you have to pay. So if you're not going to live there for at least 3 years, then you're actually going to lose some money when you go to sell it, because that hasn't been enough time for you to build up equity through principal pay down or appreciation, right? So there is a 2-year requirement to avoid capital gains taxes. So if you live there for less than 2 years, you actually have to pay more taxes. So you definitely want to make sure you're going to live there at least 2 years. We recommend 3 for most price points, like the average price point in town. That 3 years would be enough time to get that appreciation. Of course, that does depend on what part of your town you're in and what price point the house is at. But for average price points, you're going to see enough appreciation over a 3-year period to offset at least the cost of sale when you go to sell. The average person lives in their home for 7 to 10 years, right, Jon?
Right, yeah.
So, if you're like most people, then it's definitely a good financial decision if you're going to live there that long. The next question that I would recommend someone ask themselves is, how much house can they afford? So what's the guideline that you give your clients for that question?
Good question. So it's a good starting point to figure out, okay, how much are you paying in rent right now? And is it comfortable? Can you pay a little more? If the answer to that is I can pay a little more, then try using a good rule of thumb of 3 times your income. So for instance, if you're making $100,000, multiply that by 3, and now you could possibly be in a $300,000 price point. It's a conservative rule of thumb, but it's a good way to just kind of get a measurement of where to start. A mortgage advisor would be a good secondary answer to that question.
To get more specific, right? But something else on the affordability question to consider are additional costs on top of your mortgage payment, right?
Oh, good point.
So
yeah.
Your mortgage payment typically includes, they call it PITI, right?
That's right.
What stands for what?
Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. I had to think about it.
Okay, so PITI is principal, interest, tax, and insurance all wrapped into your monthly mortgage payment. But on top of that, some other additional costs are going to be your utility bills,
Yep.
Gas, water, electric, and
HOA.
your HOA fees, which isn't for every house, but some neighborhoods do have HOA fees. And then you've got what's recommended is that you have a maintenance reserve, because there are common maintenance issues that arise over the lifetime of owning a home, such as roof repairs, HVAC, water heater. Those types of things are bound to pop up over time, and you don't want to be caught off guard and have to go into debt or not, be able to repair it when you need to repair it. So they recommend 1 to 2% of the value of your house to be saved every year. So you want to put away at least 1% of the value of your home each year so that you have that maintenance reserve ready.
Great point.
So the next thing that we want to think about is what are the out-of-pocket expenses, right? So a lot of people they know they have to have a down payment for the loan, but some other expenses that are out of pocket up front when you go to buy a house. On the realtor side of things, when you go under contract, you have to pay what they call earnest money, which is just an amount of money that you give the seller to show that you're serious about buying the house, so that they will be willing to take it off the market for you. And that is typically about 1% or so of the sales price, and so your that money will go towards your closing credits if you end up buying the house. And so you'll also get that money back if you decide to walk away from the deal after you inspect the home. You have an option period to inspect the home and negotiate for repairs. And so that's another out-of-pocket expense, actually, is paying for the inspector, which is typically $300 to $400. So you've got your earnest money and your inspection costs when you go under contract. And then at the closing table, John, you've got the loan cost, right?
You do, yeah. So going back to rule of thumb, 2.5% of your sales price is a good measurement of what the cost for the loan could be. And this is outside of the initial down payment. So we're talking about the lender fees, the title fees, the escrow account, or what we call prepaids for the taxes and insurance collection. All of that combined is about 2.5%.
You may not end up having to pay any closing costs at the closing table. It just depends. So there's ways to help minimize that, and part of that comes with programs on the loan side, and part of it comes from negotiation strategies on the realtor side of things.
So you also want to keep in mind down payments. Down payment can start from as little as 3% and on up, depending on what's comfortable for you or what you can actually qualify for. There are, in fact, down payment assistance programs as well that help cushion some of those out of pocket. So don't feel as though you need a larger down payment than the 3%. There's plenty of ways to get qualified with less than that 20% down payment requirement initially.
Let's see. Credit score. What do they need to know about their credit score?
Okay, so credit score. First, you want to know where your credit score starts, right? Where are you at currently when it comes to your credit FICO? There's some great websites, freecreditreport.com, annual credit report. Check it out. Do some research. Find out where your scores are today. If your scores are anywhere around 600 or above, the good chances you may be eligible to get qualified now. If it's below 600, don't worry. We have strategies and availability to help you strategize how to get that credit report improved. So if it's below that FICO, we can always find ways to help you get there. Second point to that, with credit comes qualifying and mortgage rates and things like that. So the way rates work with credit scoring is it's a lot like a seesaw. So the higher the FICO, the lower the rate, and as the score is lowered, the rate increases a little bit. Some ideas on that is not to get too hung up in the mortgage rate. And the reason why that is we're in some really amazing times with mortgage rates. Rates are the lowest they've been in a very long time, and it helps out with qualifying. So if whatever you're not able to get qualified today on the lowest rate, you can always work on a refinance down the road, or even look into the timeline of ownership. You may not be in the house that long for it even to matter what the mortgage rate is. So these kinds of discussions are really good to have with a mortgage consultant. So some good things. It's a great question on the credit report. Here's a question for you. So if someone's out there, they're renting today, they're trying to figure out, is it time to buy? Does it make sense for me? Rent versus buy, what suggestions or recommendations would you share with them, someone looking at that?
Renting versus buying, which is better? That's a really huge question. You'll get lots of different answers to that, and really there's not one right answer that applies to everybody. It depends on you and your situation and your goals. So it goes back, first thing to consider, it goes back to the first thing we covered in this video, and that's, are you able to stay there for at least 3 years? If so, then it does make financial sense to buy instead of rent. If you're in the average price point, And so that's the main thing to consider right there. There's some monetary benefits other than, the equity buildup. And that would be your tax deductions. You get to have a tax write-off for your property taxes and your mortgage interest, your mortgage interest. So you get to write those things off in your tax. So a little bit of a benefit there. home ownership is one of the best ways to grow your net worth over time because of that equity buildup that you get from principal pay down and appreciation. So if you're like most people and you're going to live there for 7 to 10 years at least, then it's absolutely one of the best ways to grow your net worth is through home ownership. There's lots of different statistics and numbers out there about the net worth of homeowners versus renters. So I'm not going to try to quote one specific number there, but if you just Google it, you'll see it's pretty impressive numbers on homeowners' net worth in comparison to renters' net worth. And so one thing you should also be aware of, if you're thinking, is it better for me in my situation to rent or buy, that there's some online calculators for rent versus buy calculators that really let you see the numbers for the price point that you're thinking about, what makes sense for you, rent versus buy. So go check out some of those online calculators, or you can just reach out to us for a free consultation and we can walk you through those steps. So anything else we should add?
You know, I think we just about covered everything. Yeah, great points, great questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching our video today. I hope that you found this helpful. And if there's anything we can do to help answer your questions or guide you to the next step of home ownership, just reach out to one of us and we'll be happy to help. So have a good one. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Bye.